Thanks for tuning in to the Palm Beach Podcast, a weekly show highlighting people making a positive impact in Palm Beach County. With your hosts, sports chiropractor and athletic trainer, Dr. James Spencer, photographer and art director, Mike Jones. Our show is brought to you by Pump House Coffee Roasters, Hopportunities, Indo Board, and Lotus Trips for travel and retreats to Palm Beach County. Hello and welcome to the Palm Beach Podcast. My name is Mike Jones, sitting at Media Zone next to my co-host, Dr. James Spencer. How you doing, Spence?
You know, it's always a pleasure to see you.
It is. Sunny blue skies out there today?
And blue waters.
It is. And we have a special guest with us in the studio today. Why don't you introduce who is with us, Spence?
So I'm going to start out with top 20 entrepreneurs to watch. Ash Atkinson. Welcome, bro.
Thank you so much. Absolute pleasure being here with you guys. Thank you for having me.
And I know, Spence, you live out in the Wellington area, and so you've sort of crossed paths, and why don't you guys kind of introduce how y'all met each other?
So my business in particular is a lot of equestrians and polo athletes as well as Ash's. And his farm that he works with is actually right down probably a stone throw away from my office.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we've linked paths. And again, just sharing some common names through the equestrian and polo community has been fun, man. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a big world, but at the same time, it's very small. Everyone kind of knows everybody. So, yeah.
And the one thing I would like to showcase with you is go ahead and name drop the farm and location out in Wellington. And then let's tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the equestrian community.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually operate out of two farms. The one you're referring to right now is Blackwatch, which is on Pearson. That's owned by a very close friend and investor of ours. He invests in show jumping horses with us. And our other farm is in Palm Beach Point, and that's Bourne Sport Horses. So that's my other business partner, Andrew Bourne's. That's his business. He's an Irish guy and family-run business, and that's kind of how our collaboration comes together. So
awesome. And tell us about your background with the equestrian community.
Yeah. So I'm originally from England. I grew up in the UK. I was there for the first 20 years of my life. My entire family is actually still in the UK. It was just me that decided that I wasn't the place I wanted to be. There was other world out there. So I grew up riding. Where I grew up, it was a very rural area, pretty close to Newmarket actually. So obviously a lot of, horse influence for me. But my family wasn't really involved in the sport. But I just, for some reason, one day I saw somebody riding when I was probably like 10 or 12 years old. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want to try this. And from the first time I got on the horse, I was like, this is something, I like this a lot. And, I just kept going with it. And when I was 18, I decided after I finished school that this is something I wanted to create into a career. And at that time, my mom wanted me to go to college and do the normal route that typically you're supposed to do. But something inside of me said this wasn't the route to go.
And that's as a rider?
Yeah, that's a rider, as in a professional show jumping rider. Yeah, cool. So I focus on show jumping, so jumping horses, as opposed to racing or dressage or any of those other polo and these other disciplines. So that was originally my background. And so from there, I was competing a lot throughout Europe. I ended up moving to Germany when I was 20, just leaving literally everything behind, moving to a country that I didn't know, language I didn't speak. And I ended up working for one of the largest horse breeders, producers on the world. They breed over 5,000 horses a year. So it was a fantastic opportunity to learn the sport, to ride a lot of horses, get thrown off a lot of horses.
Yeah.
Because everything we had was, younger horses, and, you got to produce them and they don't know a lot. So things happen.
Well, you step out of your comfort zone too, right?
Yeah.
You don't know the language, you don't know any people, and it, forces you to think fast and to, really open up and meet people and live life.
I would like to touch on that because I know all three of us have lived somewhere else. And what was that driving force to get you to make that big jump? Because I know what it was for me, and I know Mike's made that big jump to Australia as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, me originally, when I, at 18, I started competing throughout Europe. So my dad would drive me to the horse shows, and we went to Portugal and Spain, a little bit in France. So I already had a bit of a taste for what the competition scene was like actually in continental Europe, as opposed to what it was like in England. And just an opportunity came around to go work there. And just knowing the fact that I wanted to pursue a career in this business I mean, you've got to be, regardless of whatever industry, business you're in, you've got to look for who is the best person I can learn from in this industry. And to go to work for a business like I did, which like I say is one of, it definitely is the largest equestrian facility producer of horses on the planet. I mean, that's where else are you going to go at that point?
Yeah.
It's invaluable.
Yeah.
The skills I learned there, I got paid peanuts, but in the day, the exposure, the experience, everything I've done in my life is ricocheted off of that initial experience of moving to Germany and working for that farm.
I mean, I can say the same thing, and I'm sure Mike can as well. Like, it's not worth the money and the initial investment. I'm just here to learn.
Yeah.
Right.
It was. I mean, I was working 14, 16 hours a day. I was cleaning stalls, I was grooming, and then I was riding. But it was everything else as well. It's just management of the horses, learning the business. I mean, we're selling hundreds of horses a year as well. So learning the business side of the sport, how we buy, how we sell horses, what horses we pick out are good ones, not what ones aren't good enough. Because I mean, we're shifting literally thousands of horses we're shifting through a year. So to learn the ins and outs of the sport at such a high level, and to be around 40, 50 riders in that facility that are all have goals and have aspirations as well. It was a phenomenal opportunity to network and to meet people and just to be around such a high level of the sport. So.
And at that point, were you still thinking I'm going to be a pro rider, or did you start to get these ideas when you see, the business end of it? When was that switch for you?
So that switch was probably about 7 years later, to be honest. Awesome. Kind of skipping ahead on that one a bit. But it was at that time, I still wanted to be, I was dead set on being a professional rider, go to the Olympics, compete at 5-star Grand Prix level. That was my goal probably from like 16 years old until I was probably 27, 28. That was kind of that was what I wanted to do. And there was no other kind of avenue to that. But I mean, I spent 2 years in Germany. I loved the time there, but I just realized as well, I almost exhausted that situation. I just felt like there wasn't really an opportunity to grow from where I was at because of the way that farm is structured. It's a case of every year is the same. It's repetitive. There's no, just the only difference is new horses come in and new riders come in. There's no, in terms of your ability to grow, it just was limited just based on the way that the model of that business worked. And because of that network I'd built there, I got the opportunity to move to Mexico. And I spent about a year and a half or so working for another big horse producer in Mexico, in Monterrey. And again, so the similar type structure. We were breeding a lot of horses, 1 out of every 100 or so ended up going to the Olympics or showing at high Grand Prix level. So, and I even see, it's funny now, I'm at the horse show in Wellington, and I still see horses that I produced when they were 4 and 5 years old competing here and doing well. And I'm like, I know that horse. I used to ride that one.
It makes you feel good too, right?
It's great to see. It's great to see, from where I started. And even horses I rode in Germany, there's a couple that are jumping, Grand Prix level that I had a hand in when I was younger. So it was great.
And I had no experience with the equestrian world before I moved to Palm Beach, and it's just like any other animal. They all have personalities.
Yep.
We've done some we filmed some sales videos for people here in the area, and she's like, this horse is very particular, and blah blah blah. And it's just really cool to see that at the end of the day they're living creatures, and they'll have their tendencies.
Yeah, they're like humans. Everyone is different. There's never one the same. For sure there's similarities. Like there's with people, there's different personality types. So you kind of have an idea of how to necessarily go about when you have a particular, maybe it's a slightly hotter, more of a kind of scatty type horse, or one that's a little bit calmer and docile. The same type with people. Some people are calmer by nature, and other people are just scatterbrained and running around. And so it's similarities in that aspect.
I love it. So Mexico to where?
Mexico, and then to California, and that was my
great
move to
spot.
US. Yeah. Beautiful spot. Yeah. So I spent some time in Southern California, and that was for me really the point whereby I decided to kind of had that shift almost where I saw there was another business angle to the sport. And what was great is from being in Germany and growing up in Europe, I had a lot of connections. I built a really great network of people. So when I moved to California, and I started to see that actually, and the guy I was working with at the time, he focused more on the buying and selling of horses, and as opposed to necessarily training clients or anything like that, which is typically the model that most equestrian professionals take, where they have a barn and they have a lot of clients they're training, and that's kind of the way they make their living is through training. Whereas for me, I'm not really a big fan of training other people. It's just not really something that I'm passionate about. Necessarily in the equestrian world, at least in the business world, I'm very passionate about training other people. But in the equestrian world, for me, it just wasn't the model and the route I wanted to take. And I just saw an opportunity whereby, all of the horses that come over to the US are from Europe. And so I could, just in a few short months of living in California, I could see the type of horses that typically Americans like, kind of the make and the mock-up and sort of how they're bred and the way they go and the way they jump and the way they move and rideability and all these different things. So at that point, I started reaching back out to my contacts in Europe and saying, hey, I'm looking for these type of horses. Do you know anyone that has anything like this? And then from there, we started to then find those type of horses, ship them over to the US and then work with them a bit, kind of make them sort of Americanize them per se. So get them ready for the American market, and then we sold them on. And kind of from that moment, I realized, all right, there's a real business angle where I can really build a great reputation for myself in the sport in that aspect. And at that time as well, I had a horse myself that I ended up going up to kind of National Grand Prix level. So showing National Grand Prix in California, as well as everything else. I was doing a lot in the hunters too, and I was buying and selling hunters and equitation horses. So I was kind of involved in all the jumping type equestrian disciplines. But yeah, I love the show jumping aspect, and I was also, still pursuing that professional sort of competition side of the sport as well that I want to be in.
And let's see how you transition from that to, what you're doing modern day here in Palm Beach.
Yeah. So, I ended up selling that jumping horse, and we got a good offer come in, and I'm not from a wealthy background, so it was like I couldn't afford to turn it down, and it just made sense. So I sold that horse, and a lot of professional riders you speak to that don't have that endless money behind them to keep buying new horses, kind of go through this struggle whereby they'll produce a horse to top level, they'll sell it, great, they'll make a lot of money, but then I've got to replace it. And that's a really hard part. You see a lot of really top professional riders, thereby they'll be winning everything in the sport for a few years, and then you won't see them again for maybe another 5-10 years because they can't replace that type of horse.
Yeah.
And that's a struggle we have today in our business, but I'll kind of go to that in a minute. So yeah, I kind of, because that happened, I lost a lot of passion for my riding side of the sport. And then at the time, I also then moved to Wellington, Florida, because I knew of it. I'd never been to Wellington prior to that, but I just knew that based on everything I'd heard, photos I'd seen, this is a place I had to come to. And I just jumped straight into it. I didn't really know a lot of people here, but the people I did, I hung around with them and they introduced me to more people. And it just, again, building out the network, same as I did in Germany, as in Mexico, California, and then coming to Florida, I just kept meeting people, kept being at events and networking and going from there.
And even just from like a relatability factor, with me and surfing, if I get like a surfboard that I don't love, I like lose a little love for surfing at that moment. I have to like find the right board or, whatever, the right board shorts, whatever it may be. And it's just interesting how, one aspect of your activity can really, like, if you get a new board, you're going riding,
Yep.
And it's just probably the same way with, everything. You get something new, you want to use it, and it's hard to replace something that was like your golden glove.
Exactly.
Definitely. So it was interesting. And again, at the time we were doing a lot of business in the buying and selling horses. And so at that point, I just saw that for me, the better route was to take of just stepping back from professional riding and let's focus on the business side of the sport. And kind of in the mix of that time, I partnered up with Andrew Bournes, my business partner, and then we ended up bringing in this investor with Blackwatch Farms that's then started to buy horses with us as well. So it just made more sense to me to focus on the business side and handling those investments for him, the investor relations side, and just allowing Andrew, who is a phenomenal 5-star Grand Prix rider, to focus on that side. And I can be, on the ground helping him, giving my perspective and giving ideas. And then we'll obviously walking the courses together, and I can help him just from the ground, which I honestly really enjoy a lot. And we've had a fantastic summer so far. I mean, we've been showing in Kentucky, Michigan. My horses are all in Kentucky right now. I just came back for the week, but then I go back to Kentucky on Saturday. We go back to Michigan again, and we've been placed in every Grand Prix since kind of coming back from COVID. So it's going really well right now. trying to keep that momentum.
And even, the thing that strikes me is the self-awareness of like, this doesn't serve me anymore,
Yeah.
Like I know who I am and what I want to do and where I want to go. And that seems like you've always let your heart dictate your path, right?
Yeah, and the reality is I'm 29 years old, so if in 5 years time a horse comes along and I'm like, oh, this could be something for me, I can jump back into it. I mean, I ride every once in a while now, and I get on our horses when, just between shows or just to help out with everything that's going on if we're having a busy day. And I'll get on our flatter horse for a bit, and I'm fine with that. And I'm totally good just getting on now and again, but who knows? Like I say,
sure,
you never know. Things could be different in a few years' time, and I want to get back in professionally riding again. But right now, with everything else going on, it just wouldn't be the right thing to do. There's too many other things in play and too many other businesses that I'm involved in and people that are counting on me for other aspects right now that it just wouldn't make sense to me.
And let's touch base on a couple of those other businesses now that here in Palm Beach and highlight what you've been doing here.
Yeah, so I mean, Palm Beach is just it's a fun, I don't think there's anyone on the planet like it. It's just an incredible place, and every time I drive on A1A and you go to go down by Mar-a-Lago and you see those properties and it's like 40, 50, 60 million dollar, $100 million properties one after the other. You're just mind blown. But anyway, so obviously on the equestrian side, buying and selling horses to a lot of, very affluent people, we've built up, myself has built up a really great network and a really great trust factor, and, people knowing that they can rely on me to deliver that high level of service. And so I realized with that as well that, these people that are buying horses from us, likelihood is at some point they're either chartering planes, they're chartering yachts, or they're buying planes or yachts, or they're looking for other experiences outside of the equestrian realm, the high level luxury lifestyle per se. So my business partner in this business, we run a high-end luxury concierge service. Like I say, we do everything from jet charters, yacht charters, exotic car rentals. We do events, we do estate management. So we work with a lot of snowbirds that, they disappear for the summer. They go up to New York, Chicago, wherever they're from. And we'll go in and check their properties. We'll run the cars. We'll check the mail, make sure the gardeners have been there. Just having their eyes on the ground, just so they know for 5-6 months while they're gone that the property is fine and the people are coming and doing the jobs they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, 5 months and 29 days.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
That's how it works here in Florida,
Yeah.
For state income tax purposes.
Oh, is that what the numbers are? I didn't look into that.
6 months and 1 day to be a resident.
Oh, there we go. That's good to know.
Yeah, there's definitely perks to living and having a business here in Florida. And not only that, but it's so desirable with the weather and the location that why wouldn't you want to live here? Like everyone that we've had on the show said, like, if you had the means to live in Palm Beach, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know?
And I look at my life, and the last 10 years of my life, I've lived in 4 different countries, and I've lived in multiple locations within all those countries. But for me now, I can't see myself going anywhere else. Like, I love Palm Beach. I love being this area. I love being in Wellington. And so the idea of, I love traveling like we are during the summer, of course. Like, I don't think I could be here the whole time in the summer because it would just, with the heat and everything else, it would kill me. But just having this as my base, I honestly can't see anywhere on the planet that I would rather be.
And the winter here is fun. WEF is going on. Mm-hmm. The polo's here. And Spence introduced me to that world. And I'm like so into sports and super competitive. And now I'm like learning like all the different modalities of riding, and because I had no idea the difference of show jumping from dressage to polo before living here.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of differences, but again, they're all interlinked, and everyone networks together, and everyone. It's in the day, everyone has a passion for the sport, and they love either being involved in it or just spectating in it, or just the networking opportunities that you get, especially like Sunday polo, and you go up there and you're in the VIP area and you get to meet a lot of really interesting people and network and
have some brunch.
Which is that. I mean, I don't want to shout out to IPC here, but the brunch is pretty good. Sure. But if you go there, my buddy Lance, he's a good guy. You should find him. Yeah.
Lance, we're coming for you.
Yeah.
But it's also cool just to, I know we're all young professionals here, and picking the brains of very wealthy people and how'd you get there, and not everybody came from money, so having that drive and just relatability with them and asking the right questions and learning, I think has been very valuable for me, and it sounds like valuable for all of us.
Yeah, it's the thing as well when you look at that kind of level of successful person that has, you know, done some incredible things and come from humble beginnings. So the fact that they are very open to share and open to help and give guidance too. And I've always, me personally, I've always taken from a standpoint of trying to provide value first when I'm dealing with, well, even anyone actually, honestly, anyone I'm dealing with, meeting with, I always want to figure out how can I help them and what can I do, even if my resources aren't at that kind of level. But there's always something that you can do to help. And even if not, you're setting that expectation or, you know, the precedence that in the future they could come to you if they do need something. But, you know, with that being said as well, I've always taken it from a standpoint of I want to ask questions that are, you know, saying like, oh, how did you do it? Like what, like, you know, the whole, it's always whatever people ask, you know, how do I go about making $10 million? Like, what do I do? And it's like, they get bombarded with those questions every day on either Instagram or in person or whatever. They're like, but if you go and actually ask something specific to you and your situation at that given time, they'll give you all the time in the world. And they want to help. They want to provide value, they want to share information, and they want other people to succeed.
So we have to ask now that you've been in Palm Beach for a little bit, what's some of your favorite restaurants, bars, places that you like to go?
And you can name drop, it's all right.
Okay. I mean, Buchan is beautiful. The Breakers is, you know, HMF of the Breakers. That's out of this world.
That's our favorite tapas.
Yeah.
They got the best Brussels sprouts. That's my
favorite. Actually.
Yeah, my favorite.
Right. Yeah.
They've hands down, they've got the best Brussels sprouts in Palm Beach.
Yeah. I love, what's it called? Brick Tops is probably my favorite, actually. I love Brick Tops. The devil's eggs there, just with the billionaire bacon. It's like, oof.
Well, now question, growing up in England, did you guys have like Marmite or did you have Vegemite? Like, what was your savory toast spread?
You know the saying about Marmite, you either love it or you hate it, right? That was on all their commercials. Well, I hate it. So
okay.
I'm one of those people.
So jam?
Just jam, yeah. Jam? Strawberry jam is typically my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll always remember. I will never forget. In Australia, they gave me a spoonful of Vegemite, saying it's just like Nutella.
They set you up for failure.
Really did.
Oh,
do you not look at it and see it's probably not quite the same consistency there?
It looks very similar.
Is it really?
Oh yeah.
What's your feedback?
You need a lot of butter.
Yeah, it's funny actually. I was in Publix yesterday in Wellington, and I didn't realize this, but they have a British section.
Cool.
Do you know about that?
No.
I had no idea, and I thought that was brand new. And I put on my Snapchat story. I mean, this like British. It's literally like this big sign that says British. They have all these British items. So they have Marmite, and they have like a bunch of other like HP sauce and all these cool things.
Oh, the brown sauce.
Like, yeah, the brown sauce, and I was mind blown. I'm like, all right, I'll get everything. And then a few people like sent me messages like, you know, it's always been there, right? And I'm like, what? I've never seen that before. I think you're lying to me.
Don't ruin it for me, guys.
Yeah, don't ruin it for me. Making me like an idiot here.
Yeah, one of my best buddies in Australia was from Brighton, and he introduced me to brown sauce. And he like would always want to go to get a steak at a place that had like the brown sauce. And I'm like, you know, whatever. I'm sure, let's go there.
Here for the ride, whatever.
Yeah, why not?
I love it.
It's cool. That was always an interesting thing, though. Like cafe culture, totally different from America to the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is. But I've noticed a lot of, especially in West Palm Beach, like a lot of European themed like coffee shops in West Palm Beach, like Jonas Joe's, for example, the Swedish kind of thing going on.
Great spot.
Which is a great little spot. And then my favorite coffee shop is, it begins with S. What's it called? It's on it's just off Clematis. Subculture. Thank you. That's it. Yeah, Subculture. That's actually my favorite coffee shop. I love going to work there.
The Albert Einstein on the outside.
Funny enough, there was a guy that looked like Albert Einstein walked in there. Like when I was there, was it end of last year?
Spence used to look like him when he had his hair grown out.
Is that what? Oh, maybe it's you. Sorry, yeah.
Funny. I was gonna say that it probably was me.
Yeah.
That picture painting mural has always influenced me, and I really do appreciate it because of the calmness of it.
Yeah.
And so just relatability again to Einstein and deep thinkers and people who read a lot. I think that was something that I found myself going to Subculture more just for the experience, which is a lot of what we're providing here with our businesses and your business. And, they'll get my money more often than anybody else, even though now Pump House is getting my coffee.
Oh, I was gonna say you better tread lightly here.
Now they get my money.
Yeah.
So, and even them, Cones and Coffee up in Jupiter. It's one of the best places to go to just cool off, get a cup of Joe, and if you want, a little ice cream cone as well. So,
Well, and the lighthouse is right there.
Shout out to those boys, Christian and Alex, and everything that they've done for us here, and that's where a lot of my time and money is going to be spent for coffee, as well as just recommending them. But going back to the experience, I think that's something that I'd like to touch on, because that's something that Mike and I really harp on as far as providing that for our clients. Whether it's a special aromatherapy, a special water, a special White Claw, whatever it is. Let's touch on that for a little bit of your business.
Yeah. I mean, really, for all of my businesses, experience is everything, and providing that service, attention to detail, and especially when you're dealing with, the highest wealth in the country. I mean, literally the highest wealth, I'm sure you guys agree, is in Palm Beach. They own property here. They come here in the winter. Honestly, probably not even just from the US, but South America, Europe as well. I know a few very successful British people that own property here. They come here in the winter as well. Again, as we said, there's nowhere else like it. So when it comes to the experiences, I mean, there's no budget to what they want. However, what they want needs to be of that service, that level, that attention to detail, and that ease and access to that as well. So especially when it comes to the concierge business, it's all about attention to detail. It's understanding our clients, exactly what they need, how they need it, and when they're going to want it. And with that being said, we can also, lost my train of thought.
Well, you were saying before we went on air that you'll get a preference sheet.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me, I used to do nightlife photography, and DJs used to have like a run sheet or a preference sheet as well, with I want a bottle of Grey Goose. I want like a bag of Cheetos, that's like the lower end, but they know exactly what they like and how they want to live their life.
Yeah. And it's like, for example, they'll get maybe husband and wife to work with, they'll get on an aircraft. We know the husband is going to sit on the left side of the plane, and the wife is on the right side, and she's going to need her iPhone charger, because if her phone drops below 9%, she's freaking out. Whereas the husband, he's going to need a copy of the Wall Street Journal and Forbes or whatever. So it's, again, with the drinks, exactly, if the wife is going to drink gin and tonic with 3 ice cubes and one slice of lemon. It's all the attention to detail, and it's got to be seamless as well at the same time, and without them even realizing what's going on. It's just they know it's there and it's ready. And like I say, if they have that ability because they have those resources, they've accumulated that type of wealth, that they expect that, and if they don't, there's no reason they shouldn't be able to get that.
Well, it's cool too that you've identified that you've worked with these people and you've created a relationship, and there's other opportunities for you to continue on that relationship, whether it be selling them a horse or helping them, get a sunset cruise on a boat or something, and it's just great that you're just a go-getter, like it's a lot of people get complacent in life, I think. And, with you always moving, putting yourself in new situations, having to meet new people, start at the bottom of the totem pole, work your way up. It's really, really cool. I think that the people that will listen to this episode, even if they're not in the equestrian world, can find some relatability, can find inspiration from you just putting yourself out there,
Yeah. And I truly believe that in life, the amount of value you provide to others is ultimately the amount of, what you're worth, whether you class your worth as the amount of money in the bank or how you feel about when you get up in the morning, whatever you pertain as worth for you, I think it's directly in correlation to how much value you provide to others.
Sure.
And the more value you provide, the more worth I believe that you attain from that.
With no expectations of anything.
Exactly.
Yep.
100%. That's honestly the key ingredient. Having no expectations, just providing value. Keep providing like you guys are with this podcast. No expectations of anything. But if you touch that one person and it provides a lot of value for them and they end up, being able to make that change or doing the thing that they want to be able to do in life, that's what it's all about.
I mean, if someone comes up to us in 5 years or something and says, I started a podcast because you guys just started drinking White Claw and like shooting the shit, that'd be a really cool compliment,
Well, and I'd like to touch on that a little bit. It's a small world, but two people who I worked with out in California, because of the influence and the conversations like we're having here, I actually went to chiropractic school. And it was just because of our conversations. One's a chiropractor already, the other's going through school now.
Yeah.
And they're both going to move back to Del Mar. But nice. It was neat to see that how much we influenced it. And at the time I didn't realize it. But now when they give me phone calls or they're asking for mentorship advice, that's when I realized it hit home. Like just having conversations like this, it's the growth for everybody,
Yeah. 100%.
So what's the next step? You have the farm and you have the concierge business. Where do you see both of those going here in Palm Beach County going forward?
So on the equestrian side, really we'll keep buying horses with our investors. I'd like to see if we can get maybe 2 or 3 more investors that would like to also be involved and, on putting capital in basis, whether we develop that into some type of fund or syndication type structure. But not to the extent of racing where you have, the fractional share ownership in one horse and blah, blah, blah. That's not the way I'd want to do that. I just want to have 2 to 3 very close-knit investors that understand the model and want to be involved and love to see the sport as it is. So that I feel like that would be the route I'd love to take with that business. Regarding the concierge side, I would love for us to get more involved in actually working directly with owners of aircraft and yachts and working on, first of all, like managing their assets for them. So, managing the maintenance schedules, managing their flight itineraries, and then also when it's to chartering as well. So whether they put their plane out for charter or their yacht out for charter when they're not using it, us managing that and then having the access to be able to use that for my other clients as well. And then obviously that way they're getting, they're creating revenue. They're being able to offset the cost of these assets by, utilizing the charter service, which we already have the network of people that want to charter. So it's kind of a win-win for literally everyone at that point. So,
well, and there's events here, we have the Palm Beach International Boat Show.
Yep.
Perfect place to go and meet and greet and meet these people that make these boats or the people that buy the boats. It's really amazing. We're in this like epicenter of, an hour to Miami, 20 minutes to Jupiter. There's sports, there's airports. There's really everything here that you could want in terms of a desirable place to live and have a business or make a life.
Yeah. I mean, it's set up, it's geared for the luxury lifestyle. It's geared for, as you said, all the infrastructure is here to facilitate anything that you could really honestly ever need.
Sure.
And I'm even going to go to like art exhibits. Mike and I went to a certain fundraiser and we met this artist and he had a $50,000 piece on the wall. He said, "Oh, do you guys want it in the studio?" Like, well, I don't know if we could even insure that piece, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't actually.
Yeah. So,
like no.
But it was cool to like, he was just completely willing to help us, just seeing a bunch of young entrepreneurs come up. And I think that was really cool and a testament to Mike and I. And it was neat to just meet people in a different like art exhibits I've never been to. So it was cool for us to just learn something new as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful place to do whatever you want to do here, really. So why don't we give the listeners a chance to find you online? What's your Instagram, your website?
Yeah.
Your MySpace?
MySpace,
whatever.
Instagram's probably the easiest route. It's just Ash, which is ASH, and then my last name Atkinson, which is ATKINSON, and then the number 1 after that. LinkedIn.
Was Ash Atkinson 0 already taken?
I mean,
It's a good question.
that's a great one. I should look it up actually. I just wanted Ash Atkinson, but that was taken by someone. So I was like, whatever. So I just put the one,
Sure.
And we know those can always be purchased.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I might have to
Don't
look
remind
into
me,
that.
please.
Oh, you have a story there, I guess.
Oh yeah, we bought domains and Instagram handles and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is also another form of revenue.
Yeah. Intellectual property,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then on that Instagram, you have links to the concierge and the farm, right?
Yeah, exactly. On that, I have in my bio, I've got the links to Blackwatch Farms and to a couple of concierge. And then I have links to my other bits of, articles and things like the Yahoo Finance 20 Entrepreneurs to Watch in 2020 article is in there. And a bunch of other things.
Is the Coppola related to the wine?
No, but we use that as a good. So typically with our clients,
Good call, Mike.
No, it's great actually. It works well with
Great
the
Pinot
clients.
Noir,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
No, we actually give gift bottles of Coppola wine to clients, and they're like, "Oh my god, is the company related?" We're like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
Yeah, whatever.
But it's great. Again, it's like a memory thing for them, and we'll give them 3 or 4 bottles, and then they'll drink them whenever they drink them, and then they see our name and like, "Oh wait, no, I need to book this," and I'll give these guys a call.
Again, attention to detail.
Attention to detail. It's all about attention to detail. So.
Love it. Well, is there anyone that you want to thank on the way out?
I mean, I have incredible parents back home that have supported me right through everything through the difficult times. And then, with COVID, I haven't seen them in over a year now. So,
Sure.
Which is kind of tough. But I mean, they've supported me through all of this and supported me through moving different countries. And, growing up, they were the horse shows with me, and my dad was driving the truck. He was grooming for me. He was setting jumps for me. And so I'm super thankful for my parents that have just really been, I think, a key anchor in my life and getting me to where I am. And even thinking about it kind of makes me well up a little bit.
Wow,
But
that's
Yeah, sure.
my goal is actually they're going to retire in hopefully in Palm Beach. That's the kind of goal. They're 64 and 66 now. So the next couple of years,
Getting close.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
sure.
the next couple of years, they're actually looking for a property right now over here. So when all this COVID's blown over, we can start to try and find them a property. And so that'd be amazing for me to get them to actually move over here. I'm very excited for that.
I totally have that relatability though. I don't know how many miles away Australia was, but it was really friggin' far from America, where it almost takes like 2 days to get over here, and same thing like a Mother's Day or a Father's Day, and I'd be like, miss mom and pops. So it's cool to see you thank them, and I'm sure they miss you too.
Yeah, I do. And actually I have this thing where every Sunday my mom and I write emails to each other, and it's our like weekly thing. Like I'll send her an email and then she'll respond. So just, updates on what's going on. I mean, I chat with them 4 or 5 times a week anyway, but it's just something
Traditions,
extra. Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a tradition thing. And so, yeah, they're super proud of what I'm doing. And when that article came out and some other things, they were, sending it all to the relatives. And
Well, now
so,
you came on the most prolific podcast in Palm Beach County as
Absolutely.
well. But Ash, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show today and coming to Media Zone. And, hopefully we'll see you in here again sometime soon.
I would love to. I'm super grateful you guys had me. So thank you so much. It was a real pleasure.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
White Claw, we'll see you soon. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Palm Beach Podcast, brought to you by Pump House Coffee Roasters